Most people believe that failure is a warning sign to stop. But what if it is, in fact, one of the most important silent signs that you are close to something valuable? The problem is that almost no one learns to recognize these bodily signals when they appear. We are trained to ignore mistakes, hide failed attempts, and abandon paths too soon. However, just like in health, the initial symptoms always give a warning before the collapse or the turning point. Those who learn to read these early warning signs see opportunities where others only see loss. And that's exactly what separates those who create something great from those who simply give up. Throughout history, some of the world's most widely used products were born as complete failures. Discredited ideas, ridiculed projects, solutions that seemed to serve no purpose. They all gave silent signs that something was wrong, but they also hid enormous potential. The problem is that almost no one knew how to interpret these hidden symptoms at the beginning. Just like in the human body, the signs you shouldn't ignore aren't always obvious. They appear in the form of error, discomfort, rejection, or strangeness. And those who learn to listen to these messages completely change the game. In this video, you'll understand why failure isn't the problem. The problem is not knowing how to read the signals the body is giving you during the process. You'll discover how products considered useless revealed silent signs of genius. You'll realize that many early symptoms in your own life may be being ignored right now. And most importantly, you will learn not to ignore what insists on not working as expected. Because sometimes failure isn't the end. It's simply a warning sign that you haven't yet grasped the true use of what you already have. Brandy, the failed wine concentrate. He likes to start by reminding us that great discoveries rarely arise from comfort. In the 16th century, Dutch merchants faced clear warning signs in the transportation of wine. Excessive weight, limited space, and taxes were silent symptoms of an unsustainable model. These signs from the business body were there, but few knew how to interpret them. The solution came from boiling the wine, removing the water, and creating a concentrate. It was merely a pragmatic, almost desperate attempt to not ignore the initial symptoms. What seemed like a technical error was actually one of the signs your body is telling you to change. The curious thing is that nobody planned on drinking that concentrated liquid, but someone tried it, and early warning signs emerged that no one expected. The flavor was more intense, more pronounced, almost like hidden symptoms of something better. Just like in the human body, when something changes silently, it's worth paying attention. Many would ignore it, but they didn't ignore those silent signs. The so-called burnt wine began to be more popular than the original. Sometimes the symptoms you shouldn't ignore appear disguised as errors. This episode teaches us that failure and perception go hand in hand. Those who observe carefully can identify signs from the body before collapse. In everyday life, this applies to business, habits, and even personal choices. When something doesn't go as planned, it may be an initial symptom indicating a need for adjustment. A simple example is at work. When the effort is more tiring than usual, don't ignore it. Reassessing processes, simplifying tasks, and changing approaches prevents bigger problems. And this logic of listening to warning signs prepares the ground for the next case. Rogaine, a blood pressure drug that became hair treatment. He often points out that not every mistake gives a loud warning when it's happening. In the 1980s, scientists were searching for a cure for high blood pressure, paying close attention to bodily signals related to the heart. The problem is that the drug showed silent signs of ineffectiveness for its primary purpose. The results weren't bad, but they were warning signs that something wasn't working as expected. Still, no one wanted to discard years of research without taking a closer look. That's when completely unexpected early warning signs emerged. The patients' bodies began sending clear messages, but in a different direction. Suddenly, hairs appeared where there had been none before. Arms, face, head, everything reacted as if it were ignoring the original script. These initial symptoms seemed strange, almost a clinical error. But someone decided not to ignore these silent signs. Instead of relying on their hearts, they began to listen to what their bodies were signaling. What was once a side effect has become the true value of the product. Just like in life, sometimes hidden symptoms reveal a hidden talent. This story serves as a warning about personal and professional decisions. When something insists on not working, there may be warning signs indicating a need for redirection. Many people force themselves down the wrong path out of pride or attachment to the initial plan. In practice, this happens when someone insists on a career that only leads to burnout. Constant fatigue, lack of motivation, and decreased performance are symptoms you shouldn't ignore. Evaluating new possibilities, studying adjacent areas, and testing small changes can open doors. And this pattern of listening for silent signals continues to appear in the next case. The Slinky, a military failure turned toy. He always emphasizes that some warning signs appear in the most mundane moments. In 1943, a naval engineer was searching for springs capable of keeping equipment stable on ships. The project seemed promising, but there were silent signs that the solution was not delivering what was expected. Nothing was working as it should, and the environment was already showing signs of a technical failure. Until an accident changed everything. A spring fell from the shelf and began to walk across the floor. What seemed irrelevant was, in fact, one of the clearest early warning signs of the project. The mistake did not solve the military problem, but it did reveal unexpected behavior. Many would have ignored that moment, treating it as a waste of time. But he observed attentively, like someone learning to listen to silent signals. The spring didn't stabilize equipment, but it charmed anyone who looked at it. It was simple, hypnotic, and strangely satisfying to watch in motion. Just like hidden symptoms in the human body, the value lay elsewhere. The technical failure concealed enormous emotional and visual potential. When you learn not to ignore these signs, new doors open. This story resonates strongly with everyday life. How many times does something not work for its intended purpose, but is useful for something else entirely? Skills that seem useless in your current job may be signs from your body pointing you in another direction. Ease in explaining ideas, telling stories, or teaching are early signs of new talents. Testing, showing it to other people, and observing reactions helps to confirm these signs. Those who listen to the warning signs before others usually get ahead. And this sensitivity to perceive value in error remains alive in the next example, Play-Doh, from wallpaper cleaner to toy. He often says that some warning signs appear when the world changes and you don't realize it. In the 1930s, the product was created to clean wallpaper, addressing a real problem of the time. But over time, houses changed and coal heating became less common. The market began to send out quiet signals that this usage was dying out. Sales were falling, interest was waning, and the early signs of obsolescence were clear. Even so, many people insisted on not ignoring the past, until someone decided to listen to the signals from the product's own body. The children started playing with that soft dough without any instruction. Early warning signs emerged there that had nothing to do with cleanliness. Touch, texture, and freedom sparked creativity and curiosity. What was once a hidden symptom became the true value of it all. All it took was removing the chemicals, adding color and a pleasant scent. Just like in life, when something generates spontaneous joy, it's worth paying attention. These silent signs rarely lie. This example also applies to personal choices. When an activity brings natural pleasure and time passes quickly, the body is giving you signals. Many people ignore these symptoms, which you shouldn't ignore out of fear or external pressure. In practice, this could be drawing, cooking, teaching, or solving problems. Exploring these skills through simple courses, small projects or hobbies helps to test them. Those who heed the warning signs before burnout tend to reinvent themselves better. And this logic of adaptation remains clear in the next case, bubble wrap, the wallpaper that failed. He often warns that not all failures are noisy. Some explode silently. In 1957, two engineers attempted to create a modern wallpaper full of texture and innovation. The idea seemed bold, but the market gave warning signs almost immediately. Nobody wanted to live surrounded by bubbles, and disinterest was one of the clearest silent symptoms. Even so, they insisted on other uses, trying not to ignore the investment already made. They tested it as thermal insulation, but new warning signs showed that it wasn't the right approach. The product seemed doomed, although it still concealed something. That's when a completely different external need arose. The technology industry needed to protect sensitive equipment during transport. This new context has revealed early warning signs that previously went unnoticed. The bubbles absorbed impact, protected parts, and prevented enormous losses. What was once a defect has become a solution, like hidden symptoms that only appear with the right examination. By listening to the signals from the market body, the product found its place. And once again, not ignoring the silent signs made all the difference. This case teaches us to observe our surroundings more attentively. Sometimes the problem isn't with the product, but with where it's used. In personal life, this manifests when someone constantly feels out of place. Frequent discouragement and feelings of worthlessness are symptoms you shouldn't ignore. Changing environments, roles, or contexts can reveal hidden talents. Those who learn to read warning signs outside themselves grow faster. And this strategic analysis prepares the ground for the next example. WD-40. Success on the 40th attempt. He often says that persistence also leaves warning signs along the way. In the 1950s, a small company was trying to create a product to prevent rust on missiles. The first attempts failed, one after another, generating silent symptoms of frustration. 39 formulas failed, and many people would have stopped there. But instead of ignoring these signs from the body of the project, they adjusted every detail. Each mistake served as an initial symptom indicating what not to repeat. In this case, persisting meant knowing how to listen to the silent signals of the process. When formula number 40 finally worked, something curious happened. The product solved the technical problem, but revealed early warning signs of another use. Employees started taking cans home, using them for doors, tools, and hinges. These improvised uses were clear signs that the value went beyond the military contract. What was originally designed for missiles has come to solve small, everyday problems. Just like in the human body, when something provides relief quickly, it's good to pay attention. The hidden symptoms of domestic utility were there all along. This story teaches us to differentiate between stubbornness and intelligent persistence. Persistence is not about blindly repeating, but about adjusting based on warning signs. In practice, this applies to studies, projects, and personal goals. If something always fails in the same way, those are symptoms you shouldn't ignore. Changing methods, seeking feedback, and testing alternatives avoids unnecessary stress. Those who learn to read the body's signals progress with greater clarity. And this attention to detail sets the stage for the next case, perhaps the most controversial one, Listerine, inventing a problem to sell a solution. He often warns that some warning signs don't come from the product itself, but from people's perceptions. At the end of the 19th century, Listerine emerged as a surgical antiseptic used for cleaning instruments and environments. Despite its usefulness, there were silent signs that the product was not finding its place in the market. They tried to sell it for everything: flaws, dandruff, various infections. This lack of focus was one of the clearest signs of strategic confusion in the body. Nothing stuck in the public's mind, and the initial symptoms of commercial failure accumulated. It was necessary to look beyond the obvious in order not to ignore the real problem. Then came the psychological turning point. They took a little-known medical term and turned it into a social fear. Bad breath has come to be seen as one of the most dangerous silent signs of social life. Nobody wanted to be rejected without knowing why. The campaign explored hidden symptoms that people didn't even know they had. Suddenly, the product ceased to be optional and became a daily necessity. When you understand the early warning signs of the human mind, the game changes. This story teaches a delicate but powerful lesson. Often, people only take action when they recognize signals their body is giving them. In real life, this happens when someone only changes their habits after a health scare. Constant fatigue, social isolation, and insecurity are symptoms you shouldn't ignore. Seeking information, talking to experts, and adjusting routines can prevent bigger problems. Those who learn to identify subtle warning signs early on suffer less later. And this strategic use of perception connects perfectly with the next example. Post-it notes, 2 failures that created 1 product. He often points out that some warning signs only make sense when 2 stories intersect. At 3M, a scientist was trying to create an extremely strong glue, but the result was the opposite. The substance didn't stick much, came off easily, and seemed full of silent symptoms of ineffectiveness. For the original purpose, it was a clear failure, with the body showing plenty of signs that something had gone wrong. For years, that invention lay forgotten, like many projects that don't find immediate application. But not every mistake is permanent. Some are merely initial symptoms that have been misinterpreted. Sometimes the true value hasn't yet materialized. Elsewhere in the company, another problem persisted. An employee needed to mark pages in a book without damaging them. Papers would fall, get lost, and the discomfort was one of the clearest early warning signs. Remembering the useless glue, he decided to try something simple. The result was perfect. It fixed without damaging and held without being too tight. It was the union of 2 hidden symptoms that complemented each other. When you listen carefully to the silent signals, solutions emerge. This story leaves a powerful lesson for everyday life. Many frustrations are not isolated failures, but loose pieces waiting to be connected. When something isn't working, it's a sign your body is telling you to pay closer attention. Ignoring these messages often delays important discoveries. In practice, it's worthwhile to write down ideas, test combinations, and talk to different people. Innovation is born when you recognize symptoms that you shouldn't ignore. And almost always, it appears exactly where no one was looking. If you've made it this far, you've already realized something that most people never understand. Failure is not a lack of value, it's an excess of misinterpreted information. Each story you've seen carries warning signs that have been ignored by many and heeded by few. Silent signs that said, something's here, even when everything seemed to be going wrong. In life, it's no different. Signs from the body, work, relationships, and choices always appear before a rupture or a turning point. The question is whether you learn to listen or continue pretending you didn't see. Perhaps today, you are experiencing silent symptoms of dissatisfaction, tiredness, or frustration. Perhaps there are initial symptoms in your routine that you've been ignoring. This is not weakness. These are early warning signs that call for adjustment. Ignoring these hidden symptoms often costs years of life, energy, and potential. But those who learn to stop, observe, and reinterpret the signals their body is giving them change course. Not in a hurry, not in desperation, but consciously. Because evolution doesn't come from perfection, it comes from listening. So the question that remains is simple but uncomfortable. What are the signs you shouldn't ignore that are present in your life today? Where do you insist on calling something that is perhaps just redirection a failure? Perhaps the next big hit is hidden in the very place you avoid looking. Applying this knowledge starts with small decisions, adjusting routes, testing new approaches, stopping self-punishment. Real change happens when you learn to respect the silent signals before they scream. And those who do this stop merely surviving and actually begin to build something greater. If this content resonated with you, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and keep learning to see beyond the obvious. Here, you don't learn to avoid mistakes. You learn to use each one to your advantage.